Okay, we got the boys back in town.
Yeah.
Back in town.
We're all in
Oh, you can see
studio.
my onions
Daddy's
on the camera.
Daddy's back. Brian with the COVID it's over. He's back.
Guess who just got back today?
We're gonna talk about your COVID sitch, but before we do, I have something to say.
Okay.
I made a realization, and you know this, you don't, and I think it's gonna be kind of funny to tell you this. This has nothing to do with Sick Boy.
Okay.
Actually, maybe it could. It probably has something to do with my mental health now and my relationship with my parents. And we will be talking about.
Yes.
This is the whole episode. This is going to be the whole episode.
No,
now.
it won't be. It's quick. Speaking of relationship with parents, we're recording with Julia Samuel tomorrow,
Oh, yes.
and
She's so great.
she's coming on. She just wrote a new book that's all about family dynamics. But we're gonna wait to have that conversation until later in the year because her book doesn't come out to Canada for a while. But Julia Samuel, past guest of Sick Boy, she's been on twice already. She's fucking incredible. She's probably one of my favorite guests of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so this kind of ties into that family and family issues.
Taylor, I'm so excited for you to hear this.
While I set this up, let me just bring up the text conversation that I had with my father
Oh, no.
recently.
Oh, dude, are you about to fucking air some laundry right now?
I'm going to air some fucking laundry. Now, I don't want to get too deep into it, but being my dad over the last couple of years, we didn't have a falling out or anything, but I was pretty angry at my dad. He did some bullshit. And now I'm really fucking angry at my dad because a long time ago, Taylor, I was telling you about...
You guys are in such a cool club together.
Well, because we've been hanging out. You've been
dad.
locked in doing dad shit, and me and Brian are out getting wasted every fucking night.
I've
Yeah.
had some FOMO. I'm not going to lie. But I also love my child.
So before I read you this text conversation, there was quite a while ago when I was telling you we were hanging out, and I was telling you about my family dog, Eric. Eric, the wiener
that
dog.
went to the farm.
That went to the farm, yeah. And I was telling you about like how Eric he bit this fucking girl. She had it coming. She was teasing him with food in her hand and wouldn't give it to him. And he was trapped in his kennel, and so he bit her. And he didn't fucking gnaw her hand off.
He's a wiener dog.
He's a wiener.
Yeah.
Well, actually, wiener dogs are extraordinarily vicious.
Yeah, but he's
But like,
the size of a wiener dog.
If he went for
Yeah.
the throat, she would have been dead. So anyway, he put a little tiny teeny hole in her hand, and blood was drawn.
if somebody's an artist, can they please draw fan art of Eric, the vicious wiener dog,
He
biting
was,
a girl's hand?
He was so cute. So anyway, he bit this fucking dummy that lived across the street, and
she a child or a woman?
she was a child. She was my age and I was like a little kid. I was like probably 10. And so anyway, because he bit this girl, we had to give him away. So my parents gave him to this family that lived out in the valley. They lived on a farm. My dad was like, "Yeah, we gave him to a farm." So years have
You were
passed.
telling this story.
I was telling the story to you, and I say it to you, Taylor, and you're like, "Dude, that dog did not go to a farm." And I was like, "No, he fucking did."
Yeah,
And you're like, "No, he didn't."
I had dogs who went to the farm.
Yeah, right. So in that conversation, I texted my dad. I was like, "Look, I'm fucking getting to the bottom of this." So I texted my dad. This is like fucking 4 years ago. I was like, "Hey, Dad, what happened to Eric?" And he goes, "Oh, we gave him to a family."
Do you remember this, Taylor?
I just want to put a like. Can you guys can listeners post photos on Instagram of of all their childhood dogs that went to the farm and tag us?
Please don't. The trauma. So do you remember this? I texted my dad and I was like, "Yo, did you guys give Eric away?" My dad texted me back and he's like, "Yeah, we gave him to a family."
Yeah. I vaguely remember that conversation.
So having the same conversation the other night with my girlfriend and my buddy BR. We were talking about family dogs and I was like, "Yeah," and they gave Eric to a farm. And Kira started laughing. And I was like, "I know why you're laughing." She goes, "They didn't give it to a farm. That dog's dead." And I was like, No. I had this conversation with Taylor. I texted my dad and she was like, "I'm pretty sure your dad was lying."
Such a crazy lie to uphold.
Exactly. So I was like, and I'm like, I'm a fucking 34-year-old man. And when I texted him last time, I was probably like 28, right? So I was like, no, I'll show you. And I did the same thing. So I said, so I texted my dad on April 13th. I said, "Did you really give Eric to a farm or did you guys just put him down? Please tell me the truth." My dad texted me back 1 minute later and said, "We had him put down because of a few biting incidents." And I said, "I fucking knew it."
That's it.
I literally still today believe that he went to a farm and he was like, the vet was unsure of the reasons and we had him check for different things like ear infections and shit. and things that would trigger it. And I was like, nah, man, that girl had it coming. She was taunting him with food. And he goes, it was the best idea we could come up with, LOL, to tell you guys at that age.
LOL.
LOL, he says. I was like, well, at least now I know. And he goes, yeah, true. So anyway, you were right.
Dude, yeah.
Eric's dead as
Dude, the
fuck.
farm, because like with me, the farm was always got a little bit further away. Like I was like, can we go to the farm? And it was like,
He's like,
well,
"Oh,
the farm's a few hours away. And I'd be like, oh, okay, then we can visit it sometime. And my dad's like,
How many dogs did you
And
have
then-
that went to the farm?
dude, we had a lot of dogs.
12.
So you know how
Wait, why do you have so many dogs?
well, you
going
know,
to the farm?
you know how my parents were with, well, my dad specifically was with pets, right?
Yeah, the same way they were with kids.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, we own you, but like the world is your oyster. Like go out and experience it. So it was very much
The
with
dog
all,
lived in a suburban neighborhood and it just
Lord.
had free. It
with
was a free range dog.
all of our cats and all of our dogs.
Free range suburbia dog.
We had probably fuck, I don't know. We had probably 5 or 6 cats. And then Mishka stuck. We had Mishka for a long time. You knew Mishka. That was the only cat that you
Mishka
knew.
Stuck.
And then we probably, before I moved onto Appian
Despite
Way.
getting hit with a golf club.
Yeah, full speed. And by accident.
That's a long story.
And so before I moved onto Appian when I was 10 and you and I became friends, I probably had like 4 dogs maybe, and they all got hit by cars. Or well, my first one we had a Newfoundland dog, and he had bad hips. He had to be put down. And
So when they got hit by cars, like were your parents like the farm?
well, there was 2 that I saw get hit by cars.
Right.
So I was like, I know they're dead. But the other ones went to the farm.
Man, you saw 2 of your dogs. get
Yeah, I
hit by
saw
a car?
one of my dogs get like fucking destroyed by a car. It was like
that.
like guts and shit.
I was having a conversation the other day about like seeing traumatic events. I haven't really seen anything super traumatic, but I was talking about the episode that we did about the van incident in Toronto,
Mhm.
and the conversation I was having was like, I've never seen something like that, but I feel like if I did, I feel like I would have the ability to like be okay. Definitely would need to like see a therapist and like work through that, but I don't think that it would like fuck me for the rest of my life. Now, how do I really
How do
know
you
that?
know?
I don't
Yeah.
know. But I have a feeling. Like I have a feeling like, okay, I could like work through that. But if I saw a dog get hit by a car, I don't think I would. I think that would really, really fuck me up.
Yeah, I don't think it had much of an effect on me other than being sad for the dog in the moment.
Yeah.
But the dog went to the farm, and I would go, and then and I would go, well, then we can visit the farm. And my dad would be like, yeah, it's kind of a long drive, but sure. And then, at some other point in the future, I'd be like, hey, so can we visit the farm now? And it was like, well, they had to move him to a farm. The farm is 11 hours away. And like as a kid, your perception of time is fucked, right? You don't like 11 hours might as well be fucking China. So like, we can't go. We like an 11-hour drive doesn't make sense. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now we need to fly to the farm. And like now
farm's in Sao Paulo. So
and now the farm's just too far. And the farm just kept on getting farther away until I just gave up.
Do you think your family ever had a conversation about like, oh, okay, we've had several dogs get hit by cars. Maybe we should like do like an electric fence around the property, or like maybe not have free range dogs? Or you think they were just like, hey, listen, that was the dog's choice to
Have
go
you
out there
seen my parents' basement and or garage?
yeah,
How it's like they're not hoarders,
out of sight,
but
out of mind.
they've gone, well, let's be hoarders in these locations.
Yeah.
So like we won't hoard in our entire house, but like
We'll hoard
like
here.
let's not put trash out for like a year and just let the trash accumulate in the garage. So we had like a garage that was 40% trash, like from the floor
Ew.
to the ceiling, just trash
Ew.
bags.
The fuck, Don?
And I'd be like, dude, there are is it parasailing? The big fucking
Oh,
surfboards
yeah,
with the
yeah,
wind
yeah.
things on. Dude, there are wind sail surfboard things in my backyard now that my dad has not used since 1993. And I'll
Those
be
are
like,
his.
yeah, and I go, yo, get rid of them.
God,
And
dude.
it's like, yeah, sure.
But
yeah.
wait, how does this come back to the dogs?
That no matter what, you won't change.
Yeah.
There's no changing. So when
And also, no matter what, if the dog goes to the farm, that dog is dead.
my dad to roaming animals is like saying like Donald Trump's gonna change his tune.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
like not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so Eric's dead. I don't want to record anymore, guys. I'm fucking sad. Brian, how was COVID?
This whole part of the conversation was sad. COVID was, it wasn't fun. I'll tell you what the worst part was. So I got COVID and probably had symptoms for like 7 or 8 days. And like, even now, still feel a bit tired in the morning getting up. And it's been probably like 15 or 16 days
Dude,
now.
you had a fucking CF cough.
I had a bad cough for a few days.
Yeah.
And even now, like in the morning, I have a bit of a cough. But the worst symptom that I haven't heard about, haven't heard anybody else say, was I woke up one morning with a swollen uvula. And I've had this a few times in my life where, you know, I've gone out on like a heavy night of drinking and haven't drank enough water.
What's a uvula?
It's your
the
hangy
hangy
ball.
in the back of your throat.
Oh, okay.
And so,
I thought those were your tonsils.
Wait, you
No,
had
that's
you
your uvula.
didn't tell me this.
yeah, so this was
Because I had a swollen uvula.
did you actually?
Like so swollen that I was almost hard to breathe.
Is
was
that
it
the same as
sitting
like
on your
swollen
tongue?
Sitting on my tongue.
urethra?
Dude.
What?
Is my urethra's
No, that's a different thing.
Well,
it's just
oh.
a different word. It's the same.
Actually,
it's a U word.
Actually, my urethra is fucked too. I had my first UTI this week,
ooh Bernie.
but I don't think
Uh,
that's COVID.
So I woke up one morning with a swollen uvula, like I had been out on a heavy night of drinking.
Dude, I had that right when you got diagnosed.
man, you might have had.
Man,
COVID,
did
to
I
be
have
honest.
fucking
You might have
COVID
had
and gave it to all you guys, but I didn't know?
You may have actually, but
I don't
so
think I
I'll
got
tell you
it,
this.
but maybe
So
I
I'll tell
did.
you why.
Not you, but there was a bunch of people that I was around. They all got COVID, and I didn't.
So
Right. So
Jared,
you tested a bunch and you never had a positive
Rapid
test.
So I
Right,
tested-
I didn't do a PCR.
I tested positive on a Monday night, and we had been out
All
at
day
a-
Saturday.
at
We were
a-
hanging out.
and we had shared like
was
we
drinking a
had
drink.
beers and we like shared each other's like tasted each other's beers. And anyway, you
We
didn't.
we also had that like lightsaber fight with our tongues just to see
Yeah,
who's
that was
like
fun.
who's got the
Yeah.
strongest tongue.
That's fun making like the sound
Interesting.
of trying to make the sound effects when your tongue was in the back of my
Mm.
throat was so hard.
It was like,
That's good. Yeah, thanks for the thanks for
I
the
just licked the mic.
ear porn.
But so I woke up
Fuck, you didn't
about
tell me
5 or
about the
6
uvula.
about 5 or 6 days into being sick, and the headache was bad. The like lethargy or like tiredness was pretty
Ooh.
bad, but it wasn't like unbearable. I was just kind of sick. But the morning I woke up with a swollen uvula, I thought it was because I hadn't been drinking enough fluids. I just assumed, oh, I'm dehydrated. So
Holy
I
shit, dude, I'm
drank-
tripping
I
right
drank a bunch of water. Like I was
now. Mhm.
on the water hardcore for like 2 or 3 days. It stayed swollen for like 4 days.
So did mine.
And
Like it was like 2 days.
dude, it
You
was
probably did have it, which is kind of great though, right? Because you just kind of didn't
And
feel
and
that
I was
shitty.
exhausted that week. Remember?
Yeah,
Because we were
you
supposed
were.
to like do something, and you were like, "Do you want to come to the park?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm so tired."
You know what's funny, Jared? You said on Sunday or Monday morning, the day I got COVID, I think you said, I texted you. I said, "Hey, how are you feeling?" And you said, "I'm super hungover." You were really you're really hungover.
Yeah.
I described my symptoms as feeling really hungover, which is funny because when you were saying you're super hungover, I was like, "Oh, maybe it just has COVID."
But I feel like if I had COVID, just because of the CF, I feel like there would have to be other symptoms
Yeah,
I have no
other
idea,
than
dude.
just
Yeah.
tired and uvula.
But dude, like
It's really
think
hard to
about there's
say.
like millions of people out there that have had COVID that never know.
right.
But anyway,
millions and
the-
millions.
here's the crazy part
Man,
though,
I'm
is
tripping.
that it was so bad. Like I felt like I had to keep clearing my throat.
Yeah.
Like I kept like intentionally make like coughing or trying to, clear my throat in some way. It was so bad. It honestly felt like at one point in the height of it that it was like psychological torture. Like it felt like I imagine what it feels like to be waterboarded. Like it's this thing that
Wow.
and I genuinely mean that, because if you imagine like a water drop hitting your head, if you have to deal with that for 2 or 3 minutes, it's probably
That's
not
not
so bad.
waterboarding.
What is that then?
That's
Waterboarding is
that's
when
called
you dunk your
that's
head,
called
right?
Chinese water torture,
So
possibly.
okay, so that's what I meant. The water droplet thing.
Yeah.
So it was something that was so subtle, but it was so consistent, and I couldn't get rid of it. That it felt like torture. Like honestly, I was like, I wanted to like pull my hair out. It was so fucking annoying, and then it just started to go away.
Mm.
And
One thing that
Yeah.
you said though is that the headache was really wild, and there's an article here that you'd prepped for me for the episode, which is interesting. This is from the CBC. It's called "Why COVID Headaches Can Be Hard to Shake and When You Should Worry."
which you know how people say like their phone is listening to them and they get served up ads. Man, I felt like my phone was not just listening to me, but like intuited that I had COVID, because the first morning I woke up with a headache, I had a push notification from CBC with this article.
Yeah.
There you go.
So for some people with COVID-19, the pain in their skull is so intense they consider a trip to the emergency room. For others, it might come in throbbing waves or feel like a constant mild ache. It could be gone within minutes of taking painkillers or still be there months later. Quote, "My head felt like it would explode and no medication was enough to make it better," said Ananda Perez, who fell ill late in December. After 2 days during which she was barely able to move from her bed, the Guelph, Ontario woman said her headache mostly disappeared, with just minor pain and sensitivity to light in the days that followed. While loss of smell, fever, and dry cough may be the more publicized symptoms of COVID-19, headache is a common one too. And 2 years into the pandemic, patients and physicians are beginning to recognize that for some, it may be by far the worst symptom and one that lingers after the others are gone. It's why there's been a push by researchers, including the U.S. National Institutes of Health, to study the little understood long-term neurological symptoms reported in some acute COVID-19 patients, which can include headaches, brain inflammation, and damage to brain blood vessels. Jesus fucking Christ.
I've heard
Dude.
like brain fog is like becoming a very frequent.
Yes, my
Yeah.
friend Jordan,
Thing.
she was like, I felt so stupid.
That was also like besides the swollen uvula, which when I Googled the swollen uvula, apparently when you have a viral infection, it can get inflamed.
So this is why I didn't think I had COVID with the
That's what
uvula.
happens when you get strep, right?
I'm not sure.
I think
I
that's what happens.
drank not a ton, but I drank. I guess when I was thinking about it, I was like, I was surprised I was hungover. I was like, oh, I didn't get fucking. I wasn't drinking Jeremy drinking. You know, like it wasn't like the consistent drinking that I'm typically used to. Fucking drunk. So I was like, well, that's weird. I had like a few drinks, but it wasn't fucked up. But I woke up, my uvula was so swollen, and I didn't sleep with anyone that night. So I couldn't confirm this, but I was like, oh, I must have had enough drinks that I was at that like point where my sleep apnea was really apneaing up,
Yeah.
and I was snoring like crazy. So I thought I snored my uvula into a fucking like grapefruit,
Ew. Maybe you did.
or maybe I fucking had COVID.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
While some people's headaches disappear alongside the illness, other patients can't seem to shake them, even long after their COVID symptoms are gone. Dr. Neely Kaplan-Mirth tested positive for COVID at the start of April. The Ottawa family physician is now well enough to resume seeing patients, but she still has an incessant headache that she describes as like a vice. Sounds like a cool song by fucking Meg Thee Stallion or something. Talking about her butt cheeks like a vice, you know? Quote, "It's like you're wearing a hat that's too small," Kaplan-Mirth told CBC News.
Yes.
It's a dull pain that's just always there. For Scott Schmidt, the COVID headache, quote, "was like living underwater for a few weeks with a constant pressure behind his eyes." Quote, "I was like, I just cannot shake this headache for the life of me. I became used to it. I honestly just started going about my day with a headache," Schmidt, a journalist from Medicine Hat, Alberta, said. For some people, the headache just won't go away long after they're no longer infected. Exactly why isn't yet well understood. Quote, "There are multiple possibilities at this point, and I don't think we have a good handle on it yet," says Dr. Jennifer Frontera, a neurology professor at the NYU Grossman School of Medicine, who is researching post-COVID conditions.
When I read this article that morning that I woke up with a headache, I was like,
Were you freaking?
I was like, well, this could last
Could be
forever.
forever,
Like it's funny because this article was in the back of my mind the entire time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I
I
had
mean,
COVID.
and that's and then it also becomes hard to disentangle how much the information that you get is psychologically playing into how
Yeah.
you feel.
Honestly, though, it
It's like
wasn't
when someone
until-
gets COVID, like, and you
um,
know them,
Totally.
and then like for like 4 days, you're like,
As soon as you got
does my
COVID,
throat hurt?
even though we hadn't seen each other, I'm like, oh, do I have COVID? Like,
Yeah,
you know, you just
yeah.
you start
Yeah.
to, or as soon as you think you have a symptom, then you become convinced
Yes.
in a certain to a certain degree
But-
that you are sick.
But honestly, it wasn't until I was texting Matt Slaney and he had just had COVID as well, and he recommended taking like some Tylenol or Advil, and then Jared texted you and you went and got me some Advil,
Mm.
and as soon as I took that Advil, in like 45 minutes, my headache was like I couldn't feel it,
Mm,
and that was like the massive game changer. I just basically took like 3 Advil a day
mm.
for the next 4 or 5 days, and it would if it wasn't for that. So if anybody's listening to this and they're like worried that they have COVID right now and they have headaches, take Advil and honestly you'll be fine.
They do say, for anyone who's worrying, the good news is that most long COVID patients respond to existing treatments for headaches and migraines, says Dr. Angela Chung, a long COVID researcher based out of the
Like
Toronto University
treatment
Health
like ibuprofen and
yeah,
shit.
exactly. Yeah. Those treatments can include prescription medications, massage, and mindfulness, depending on the diagnosis. Chung also reminds patients who despair about their long COVID symptoms that, quote, it doesn't mean that you will have this forever. Let's hope. Her advice, quote, trying to deal with what you're currently experiencing one step at a time because we're learning so much every day with COVID. So again, man, it just makes me think about how fucking wild it's going to be in like 20 years when we have so much more data on all of this. And
Yeah.
I have something I want to chat about. I don't know if we really need to chat about it, but I want to bring it up more so. It's about masks. I don't want it to become this like fucking mask conversation. It's more about psychological. We talked about it at lunch the other day, and you know, if you want to comment on it for sure. But I'm more so interested in people who are listening. So since the mask mandates have they're pretty much gone all over the country. I don't think there are any around the country now.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And they're not here in Nova Scotia. And so since
They actually, I think they might be on PEI still.
might be. So
Yeah.
they're not here. And when they left Nova Scotia, which was mid-March or late March, I started noticing that there was a lot of people wearing masks outside by themselves during the day. And you know, through the whole thing, like when masks were on, like there was always like hey, this is not something that's necessary. COVID really doesn't transmit. Like I think
Very
almost
hard to trend.
like extremely hard, if not next to impossible, to transmit outside during the day. Like you know,
But during the night, it's very
Yeah.
different.
you know,
Like all those zombie games you play when night falls. Ooh,
like
look
unless
out.
you're you know, like hugging or kissing or something, like very hard.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was so interesting. And at first I went, oh, I kind of thought about it in a little bit of a bad way, like, oh, why are you doing that? And then as I started to see it, I started to kind of see it more as this like psychological thing, like a psychological toll that COVID has taken on the population, of going, despite all evidence to the contrary, this is still something that people are doing out of like a psychological fear or insecurity, or insecurities may not be the right word, but if like a fear or a concern that they might get COVID. And every time I see somebody outside who's wearing a mask by themselves, like walking down the street, nobody around them with a mask on, I want to go, not in like a judgment way, but in like I want to go, what drives the decision? Like, where does the information come from? Or is it based on information, or is it just based on a feeling? Is it based on something that somebody told you? And so really broadly, I want to, if there's anybody out there that's listening that's going, yeah, I wear a mask during the day when I'm walking around outside by myself, I want to know where that comes from.
You know what I bet it is? Because I've thought about this after we had that conversation. It's I think it's, I mean, I don't know how much like insecurity or fear plays into it. I think it's less about that, and it's more about a an
Okay.
adoption of mask culture that we haven't had
Like a safety blanket.
in the Western world,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you go to Korea 5 years ago,
Right.
and tons of people are wearing masks everywhere, all the fucking time, because culturally it's accepted and it is known that, like, all right, during flu season, I wear a mask. If I'm not feeling well, I wear a mask. If if I'm going to be in a small area for a long period of time, like a transit system, like a train or something, I wear a mask.
Yeah.
And
I saw-
culturally, it's what they do.
Yeah.
And as someone who's worn a mask in public long before COVID, there was this feeling that I had. Like, I would go to the climbing gym, right? I would go to 7 Bays here in Halifax, and I would be bouldering, and there's a lot of chalk and dust in there, and it's insane the amount of chalk. And I would notice, like, that's fucking my lungs up, but I really like climbing, so I would wear a mask when I went, and I would feel so self-conscious wearing a mask while I'm in there, because I get looks. You would get looks like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. Now, after 2 years of COVID, that culture of mask wearing has been adopted here, and I think that there's people that fucking like it. You know, it's like, I like wearing a mask. Sometimes I was having this conversation with my friend Todd the other day, where we were talking about, like, sometimes it feels so fucking good to just be out wearing a mask with a hat and glasses on, because you don't gotta talk to no one.
Totally.
Like, no one
yeah.
recognizes you, and if they do, they kind of aren't really sure, so you don't have to fucking say hello. And it's like, there's something kind of nice about it. It's like it's like, you know, that comfortable feeling where you like, you put your hood up and you got your hat on, and you're like,
Yeah.
and it's just me. I don't
That's
want
my that's my public stoned look.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
that, right? So I'm sure there is something, there's something there that has to do with, like, fear of getting sick or whatever. But I think it's less that, and I think it's more of a cultural adaptation of this thing that we have, like, that we now accept. And for some people, it feels good.
The other
it just
thing
feels
is,
good to do it.
is less so here probably, but pollutants in the air. Like, sometimes there's
Yeah,
just
definitely.
bad air quality, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
masks can help with that. But the big thing that is relevant here is like allergens in the air.
Yeah.
So I saw a thing the other day that people are
Especially
feeling,
right
like you're
now,
saying,
right?
people
Like-
are feeling more comfortable during, like, pollen season.
Yeah.
And
This is pollen season now, right?
yeah. And so people are starting to feel more comfortable, like you were saying, Jared, with the example of being at the climbing gym. Like, people who have allergies, who never felt comfortable being outside wearing masks before, are like, hey, fuck, like,
I've
I'll
noticed that this is
I'll wear a mask
Yeah,
outside
exactly.
now
Like, they've
because,
noticed, like,
you know,
oh wow,
this will make me feel better.
yeah.
And then the other thing is well, I would have said this a few months ago. Man, I was wearing a mask outside all the time when it was fucking
It
cold
was
out.
cold as shit.
Yeah.
It's
It
fucking
was
awesome.
amazing
Yeah.
having a mask
Yeah.
over your face.
Yeah.
Then.
See,
So-
so I would just love to get, like, an eclectic collection of responses from people, and in terms of, like, what the reasoning, what's driving the reasoning behind wearing it, because COVID is so obviously central to, like, everything right now. The default assumption is that you're wearing it because it's COVID, but that's an interesting perspective that you have, that and that you have, like, pollen season, that makes sense to me, that it's culturally just, we're sort of entering a phase culturally that a lot of Asian countries have been in for
Years.
a long time.
Fucking forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be something as simple as, like, you're walking from the front door of your apartment. Like me, for example, I park my car on the street. I walk out the door. I have my mask on when I'm leaving the apartment. I have either things in my hand or my hands in my pocket. I'm like, oh, when I get in my car, I'll take my mask off. And somebody's driving down the street and sees me for a second. And they're like, look at this fucking guy wearing a
Or
mask.
you just
on
have
the
it on
street.
you, and it's so comfortable that you don't even, like,
Yeah.
you
Dude,
forget.
I
you know?
saw Tank Sinatra posted a meme, and this is, like, a long time ago, where he was like, it was something along the lines of, like, when you just get in your car and you had your hands full and you forgot to take your mask off, and then you realize that people are looking at you wondering why you're wearing a mask in your car by yourself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, God damn it.
It is really funny. Or maybe somebody's just wearing their mask outside on their own intentionally to make people like you who are curious, Taylor, go, what the fuck is this guy?
Yeah,
They're
doing?"
just, they're just
fucking-
trolling me.
Yeah. This is fucking awesome news. This popped up on my newsfeed today. Health Canada lifts ban on blood donation from men who have sex with men, putting an end to a practice long criticized as discriminatory and homophobic. The regulator announced in a statement that it had authorized a submission from Canadian Blood Services to remove the current ban on donations from men who have had sex with men in the last 3 years.
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry, last 3 months. But still, fucking 3 months. If you fucked a dude in the last 3 months and you're like, I'm going to go donate blood, and you show up and they go, okay, cool. And have you had sex with a man recently? And you go, yeah, I had sex with my fucking partner last night. They go, nah.
So that's still a thing,
It
even though
was.
they're
It was.
It was. And then they're
Up
lifting
until
that.
right now. They lifted the ban.
So that was the old rule. It wasn't just you're gay, so now you can't give blood. It was 3 months was like
if
a
you've
window.
had sex within the last 3 months with another male and you are a male, then you cannot donate.
and
Is that-
that's done now.
Is
That
that
is done.
stigma
Thank
that's
God.
left over still from like
Yeah.
the
HIV.
AIDS
HIV.
AIDS
Yep.
epidemic?
Yeah,
and
that's
not,
right.
and not to bring it back to COVID, but like and I'm interested in this from anybody, especially if you were like sexually active in the gay community in like the late 80s and the 90s and like that period where HIV was a craze and everyone was very scared.
It was a pandemic.
Like I want to know, like, do people feel any similarities in, especially with COVID in the early days, in terms of like how people treated COVID and people who got COVID to sort of like the AIDS epidemic, in the way that, you know, how especially early on, probably in that first year, how it felt like there was like a judgment, like if you got COVID, then you had been bad in some way, like you had been engaging in some type of like risky activity that you shouldn't have been engaged in, and that there was like a judgment placed on you. Because I still feel that from certain people now, where I'm like, really, you're still still passing that judgment?
That definitely existed, but I don't. I mean, I think it's way worse, or the alienation back in the HIV days.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't want to seem like I'm equating it like
No,
they're the same thing.
yeah.
But I want to know. I'm interested in just if you know, people who experienced that then see any similarities now.
By the way, I just want to say that new policy, it's not in effect yet. It takes effect September 30th of this year. So, which will screen all donors regardless of their gender or sexuality or, quote, high risk sexual behaviors.
See, isn't that frustrating in and of itself that it takes effect at a later date?
I know,
because it's like this has been
like, what do you got to do to prep? Like, just fucking say it and then do it.
And it's so it's
so stupid.
It's not even outdated because it was never dated. It never made any sense anyway.
Yeah.
Like it was always just a stigmatized lack of understanding and, you know, ignorance that caused that policy to be in effect anyway.
I mean, aren't they screening all of the blood anyway? Like, are we assuming that they test the blood
probably.
when they get it?
It's probably
Like,
just
obviously,
a fear of like it getting through. You
I
know?
wonder
don't
if they
know.
do. I mean, that would make sense that they do.
They'd have
but
to.
yeah, fuck, dude, that's
That'd be crazy.
that's the lab work.
But I mean, like, you're not
Crazy.
allowed
makes sense
to
that they do that.
donate blood if you traveled to a certain country in the last 6 months too.
I don't know.
There's,
I've never donated blood.
There's interesting rules around it, like that are not discriminatory rules, but like just like rules that exist for whatever reason.
like if you if you went to I'm guessing because I have no idea, but like a country that might have a lot of malaria or
I know when I traveled to
dengue
India
or something
and
like
I
that.
came back to Canada and I went to donate blood, I wasn't able to. And it was like, if you've been there in the last 60 or 180 days, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I would assume that if somebody, you know, like if somebody had that, like got, you know, malaria, but didn't travel to one of those countries and for some reason got malaria and they went to donate blood, I would assume that they would probably be screening their blood and catch that rather than like taking the risk of giving somebody blood that could potentially have.
I mean, it's just such a like the idea
I don't know.
that still is embedded in the policy that still will be in effect until September, that you are somehow like you are somehow immune to HIV because you're not gay.
Yeah.
That is so
Yeah.
insane. Like
So
that
they do say here, Canadian Blood Services said this will mean asking all donors whether they've had anal sex with new or multiple partners in the last 3 months. So I don't really know if that will like make a like if you say, well, yeah, like if that'll make a difference or not.
But you're not just getting HIV from anal sex, right?
I mean,
No.
Or is it
no,
just, or is
no,
it just
you
is
can
it
get
easier to get it if you're having anal sex?
It's
or?
a lot harder to get from just like penis and vaginal sex.
So I think it's because it's blood, right? It's then there's more tearing that can occur
Yeah.
when you
Right.
have anal sex. I just went to Canadian Blood Services, and underneath testing it says when the donation is complete, several blood samples are taken to test for infectious diseases, blood groups, and compatibility.
Mm.
The units and samples are sent to Canadian Blood Services laboratories for processing.
Wow. So they're gonna so for the last 3 decades at least, they've been saying we're gonna test this shit anyway, but we're not even gonna take it, even though it would be tested.
The second paragraph is interesting because there's one more paragraph here that says, despite its sophistication, no test is 100% perfect. In addition, tests can fail for technical reasons or because the pathogen has mutated.
Yeah. So it's
That's
like a fear
why-
that it would slip by.
Well, it says this is why we rely on our donors to be honest about their exposure risk when completing the donor eligibility screening criteria,
Yeah.
which is part of a multi-tiered safety system designed to protect patients.
Yeah, they said today's approval from Health Canada is the result of over a decade of work to make participation in Canada's Lifeline as inclusive as possible without compromising the safety of biological products or the security of supply, said a statement from Dr. Graham Schur, CEO of Canada Blood Services. Quote, numerous 2S LGBTQIA+ and other stakeholder groups, researchers, and Canadian Blood Service employees have contributed countless hours to this effort over the years. This could not have happened without their hard work. Health Canada said its authorization was based on assessing scientific evidence, indicating it also held a meeting on April 13th of scientific and medical experts to seek input on the change. The ban has been in place since early 1990s when it was seen as a way of protecting the blood supply from contamination with HIV. It began as a lifetime ban, with the period being reduced over the years. Health Canada has said that previous reductions of the ban did not lead to increases in HIV-positive blood donations. The Liberals promised in 2015 and 2019 election campaigns to repeal the ban, but that promise was absent in their
7
2021
years. And
platform.
like, think about, I know this is just like kind of thinking about the web of implications and consequences that a policy like this that's been in place for a long time ends up having. Like, how many you're almost excluding by nature of the policy gay people working for Canada Blood Services,
Yeah.
because how could you possibly
Yeah.
think that it's valuable to work for an organization that is actively discriminating
Well,
against
you know how you think it's valuable, and I bet you there's some people
like from the inside type deal?
yeah, exactly, being like, well, I'm going to fucking work there and advocate for the fact that this is bullshit.
Yeah.
You know. Speaking of blood donation, this is a fucking trippy article title.
Guys, I love learning about this stuff because it's like conversations like this where I'm like, I'm in over my head over this, but we'll Google something, we'll learn about it.
Amen.
Somebody will write us
Yeah,
and
yeah,
say,
yeah.
hey, you fucking idiots.
Totally cool with speculating.
Yeah. When I was prepping today's episode, Kira was sitting next to me and I was doing this, and she was looking at the stuff I was putting down. She goes, "Do you ever verify some of this stuff?" And I was like, "No."
Our audience verifies it.
And her face, she was like, "Ugh, what, really?" And I was like, "No, trust me. People write
Yeah.
in. They let us know."
We don't read the articles, we just read the headlines.
Yeah, sometimes you get it wrong, sometimes you get it right.
This is a trippy fucking title. Regular blood donations can reduce toxic forever chemicals in the bloodstream. So we've been talking about forever chemicals and nanoplastics and microplastics. So regular blood donations basically are like one of the key ways in order for us to just rid ourselves.
Because you're making new blood.
That's right. They're in the air, they're in the water, they're in the food we consume, and now they're in our blood. They are perfluorocard. Oh man, guys. I mean, honestly, I don't think you guys could. Perfluorocidal. Nope. Here we go. Perfluoroalkyl That was it. Perfluoroalkyl.
Perfluorical.
It sounds like a
It
more
could be it, yeah.
smooth.
Polyfluorical. They use fluorical. That's probably it. Perfluorical and polyfluorical substances, also known as PFAs. We'll just say PFAs.
Yeah.
Or forever chemicals, substances that make up plastic and never degrade. They've been linked to numerous health conditions. They contaminate the delicate balance of gut microbiomes. They cause asthma and other lung diseases. And now they're in our bloodstream where they're difficult to remove and we're all going to die. A landmark trial has now found that donating blood regularly can cleanse the bloodstream of PFAs.
You know,
A finding that marks the first time we figured out how to rid the body of forever chemicals.
So hold on. So you're donating your blood that's got these chemicals in it. We've all got it.
Yeah,
We've all got it.
That's right.
You're giving it away so that somebody else can have it.
Yeah.
And you're going, sweet, and I'll make the
Not
new
mine.
fresh. I'll make the new fresh, pure stuff.
That's right. Not my problem now.
You know what's funny is I bet in LA, if this was a treatment that you could go and get done and your blood wasn't being used to help somebody else, people would pay a lot of money to have this done.
Right. Yeah. Like you would go and you'd just be like, just throw it away.
Yeah, like if you like advertised like blood cleansing treatment that helps get rid of plastics in your blood, then I bet people would sign up and pay to go and have that done. When
Dude,
you
I
can
bet
get it
you
done for free and help
I
somebody.
bet you
just donate.
I bet you billionaire. It's worked into billionaires like weekly thing where they like every like Sunday a billionaire just sits down and they get drained of half their blood.
Have you guys watched? So have either of you guys watched Silicon Valley?
No.
There's like the character that owns Hooli. He's like the mega bill. He's like the Jeff Bezos tech billionaire sort of guy, and he's the most narcissistic character. And he has a
like me.
He has a trainer that trains him, but his trainer also he's like 20 years old and he's like incredibly fit. They also do blood transfusions to each other so that he can take the younger fit person's blood.
The adrenochrome. The research published in JAMA Network Open included 285 firefighters from Australia who donated blood and plasma over 12 months. Interesting thing here, firefighters are more exposed to PFAs than the average person, making them a perfect case study for the research. The firefighters were divided into 3 groups. One would donate plasma every 6 weeks, one would donate blood every 12 weeks, and one would simply be under observation. They say, quote, "We don't want to see these chemicals in our body. We don't want to be guinea pigs to see what's going to happen to us in 10, 20, 30 years. Let's get them out," study co-author Mark Taylor said of the firefighters' response. Plasma donation was the most effective intervention, reducing mean serum perfluorooctane sulfonate levels by 2.9 milliliters, compared with a 1.1 milliliter reduction with blood donation. A significant difference. Similar changes were seen with other PFAs, the paper stated. In other words, donating plasma was found to be more effective than donating blood, though both were effective in reducing the overall amount of chemicals in the bloodstream. And this is significant. Thus far, no other investigation has worked in reducing PFAs in the blood.
And the PFAs were, this
is the reason why we're going to have a sterile world in 40 years.
And we talked about this when it was Aaron Brockovich did an article about it. That
she did an article about the woman that wrote the book about it.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And then we wanted to talk to the woman who had the book, but then she was on Rogan, and then she was way too fucking popular for us to get on our show. And that was all about fertility.
It was all about how it was all about how that woman is convinced that in 4 years there is going to be a 0 sperm count.
Yeah.
It's an existential crisis.
And I wasn't there for the conversation because it was like a day or two after I had my daughter, but we talked to a demographer about population stuff.
Yeah.
And declining populations and like lopsided populations with regards to age and everything, like that has major impacts across everything.
Yeah.
It's like if your sperm ducts that carry your what is it called, your tubes that
vas deferens.
Your vas deferens.
Your vas deferens. So it's like as if they're a lazy river. and your
Okay, here we
sperm
go. Yeah.
are people on tubes that are floating down it. But
Tubing.
I feel like we had this lazy river tube.
Yeah,
Oh, this is probably the 7th lazy river
Okay.
analogy that he's made, and they're all completely different situations,
Right.
but they
and
all
the work-
line up.
And
It's a-
in the
it's a
lazy
perfect
river,
analogy.
there's a bunch of PFAs that are beach balls,
Yeah.
and like there's
Too-
a bunch of them in there, and
too
they're
many.
they're not clogging up the lazy river. But if you get enough of them in there,
You're
then
gonna have
those
a
beach-
backlog.
They'll clog up your entire lazy river.
You gotta shut down the park.
Yeah.
Great analogy.
All right, let's move on to what the hell. This is from Jill on our Discord. Thanks, Jill. This made me feel weird. I don't like this. A rare case of wobbly vision. Don't say that. And a cyst behind the eye caused by chewing.
Like chewing food.
This sounds like something that you'd say to your kid if they chewed with their mouth open. Like you're gonna get a cyst behind your eye.
Yeah, this sounds to me like too much science. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, like pull back the.
you know like if
I'm
you
with you.
like if you were like this is like an article that you'd see on the Huffington Post that's like 5 reasons walking is bad for you.
Yeah.
Like and and they'd be like
stop chewing.
and it'd be like here's all the reasons that this thing that is super essential to your life is bad.
Trying to reach 20,000 steps in one day? Think again.
Yeah.
Before I get into this, a little like side story about the telling your kid like if you chew with your mouth open, you're gonna get wobbly eye vision. The other day I was at my sister's house, and my 3-year-old nephew Austin was picking his nose and eating it like constantly, and I was like, hey, don't do that, dude. That's nasty.
I heard this story
Just
because,
roll it,
Jared
play
and
with
I've
it,
been-
and then discard it.
Yeah, do a Taylor to just roll it and flick it wherever the fuck you are. It doesn't even matter.
Taylor rolls it and saves it. He like puts
No,
it
I
on the
don't.
table
No,
and
no,
saves
Yeah,
it
you do.
for
You
later.
jam
No,
them
I
under
don't.
your seat.
No, I don't save it.
So he was eating them. I was like, ew, don't do that. And he goes, why? I was like, because it's dirt, dude. That's mud. And he goes, no. I was like, your boogers are mud. And he goes, no. And he looks at my sister and she's like, it's true. I was like, I'm telling you, man, look. So I brought out this video. I just Googled boogers are dirt. And it was this video for kids about why you shouldn't eat your boogers. I was like, perfect. So I played it. And while it's playing, the woman's like, she's like, cilia in your nose collects dust particles, and the dust gets hard, and she's like, and it kind of it gets hard like mud. And I was like, see, it's mud. And he was like, no. And then she was like, here's an image of boogers in your nose, and it was this image of these boogers, but they had eyes and like sharp teeth. And I went hard on that. I went, do you see? I paused. I was like, do you see this, Hudson or Austin? I was like, do you see what are those? And he goes, teeth. And I go, so yeah, they have teeth. And listen, when you eat your boogers, they will, if there's enough in there, they will eat you from the inside out.
Oh my God, this
They'll
is the
chew-
whole like watermelon seed thing.
They'll chew out your belly. They'll chew out your belly, and they'll cause a hole in your stomach, and they'll come right out of your belly button. You'll die.
Oh my God.
And so that was like 3 weeks ago. I went over last night, and he picked his nose. And I was watching. I was like, you little fucker. He takes his finger out, and he walks over to my mom, or to my sister, and he just goes, yeah. And she goes, oh, thank you. And she just takes it off and like puts it on the ground. I was like, hey, how come you didn't eat that? He goes, as if I didn't tell him, he goes, they have teeth and they will eat my belly out. And I was like, yeah, dude,
That's
fuck yeah, dude. And now you're
hilarious.
going to believe that until you're 18. And then you're going to tell someone, and someone's father's going to hear it and go, you're a fucking idiot.
Wait, hold on. I can't even remember what were we talking about? Why did we get on this?
So rare case of wobbly vision and a cyst behind the eye caused by chewing.
You
Here we
said,
go.
wait. I want to know why Taylor thinks this is too much science.
Well, let's get to this. So there's a 21-year-old man. He went to the doctor after noticing his left eye was increasingly protruding from his skull, only to find out that he had a cyst behind his eye, which had been caused by his chewing. This is a rare situation described in a case report published by BMJ Case Reports last week. Occurred due to a skull defect that allowed the movement of the jaw to put undue pressure on the structures around the eye, which ended up disrupting his vision. The patient first visited a oculoplasty clinic, a clinic which performs cosmetic surgery on eyes, complaining that his left eye had been slowly bulging more and more from his face over the last 18 months.
Do you guys think that this is the same defect that the people in the Guinness Book of World Records
Like the
for
ones
like
that
eye
pop their eyes out?
popping?
Oh man,
I don't think so.
I have. I
little bit
know.
different?
The image of that woman popping her eyes
her
out.
eyes came out.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
He was also experiencing oscillopsia.
Supercut of Jared trying to speak words.
I was thinking of making that.
Don't.
I was like,
don't.
are there enough of those
Don't.
words in this episode?
My skin's not thick enough. And also, I've been reading the emails that you fucking cucks out there sending us, laughing at me not being able. You pronounce all these fucking medical words once a week, every week.
The doctors are like,
Oscillopsia, which is unstable vision in which the world around a person appears to be moving when it's actually stationary. Ugh. There was no pain associated with the eye's new forward position. And when doctors investigated, they found there was no difference between the vision in his eyes, and he was able to move all of his eye muscles. When doctors dilated his eyes to inspect the back of the eyeball, they saw no glaring issues, but there was a visible bulging of the left eye around 3 millimeters. Eventually, doctors discovered the issue stemmed from a mass in the intraconal space, a region in the muscles directly behind the eyeball itself, but weren't sure what it was. They believed that it was either made up of a tangle of bleeding capillaries, a tumor within the nervous system itself, or a dermoid cyst containing fluid. The third option turned out to be the culprit, the cyst. CT scans revealed a cystic lesion in the patient's left eye measuring about 2 centimeters long and 2 centimeters wide.
But
Doctors realized that a pre-existing bone defect in the patient's eye socket was allowing this cyst to extend into a skull structure called the infratemporal fossa, which nerves pass through, thus displacing the optic nerve itself.
you kind of nailed that one.
Once the problem was isolated, the question turned to how the cyst had gotten there. Further examination of the patient showed that the bulging of his eye, which persisted even when he was at rest, got worse when he was chewing. Quote, on repeated chewing movements, the eyeball was seen wobbling in anteroposterior direction, the case report stated.
what do you guys think he was chewing? Because like, I'm trying to imagine,
Dude,
try to imagine
I know
the impact of chewing. Like,
I know what it was.
you have to be chewing so aggressively that your eyes fucking.
He was chewing that.
moving.
He was chewing that stringy baseball gum. You know what I'm saying? Like that old like pink string gum that you would like wads of it.
Like the double bubble.
Yeah.
That
Um,
stuff's so good.
Dude, what's up with baseball players chewing gum?
It's
those
boring,
guys-
man. They get
those
Those
bored out
guys
there.
load up
Well,
the gum.
it's probably they're probably trying not to chew tobacco.
That
Yeah,
or
maybe,
not fall
maybe.
asleep.
Yeah,
Because imagine
Dude,
being like a.
Dude, it's so fucking boring.
Dude, I
Every time I
hate
go over
baseball.
to my sister's place, Pat loves that shit. Baseball's on the TV, and I'm sitting there going, "Fucking shoot me, dude! What are we
Dude,
watching here? This is
yeah.
insane."
I think I told you that, guys, this last year. Like, I enjoy putting baseball on in the background as like the white noise to fall asleep to because it's so boring.
It is very
like,
fall
the-
asleeping.
You know
like,
why I
sleep-worthy.
don't do that? Because when I was 5, I was in bed, and my parents' bedroom was right down the hall, and
You heard them
the
banging
World
while you were
Series
watching
was
baseball?
on really fucking loud, and over the noise of that loud World Series with the Blue Jays playing the World Series with Joe Carter,
96,
I was hearing my parents fuck over the sound of that
that's the
loud noise.
and that's the drama.
And that's the trauma, and that's why baseball is.
And so every time
fucking
you turn a
boring,
baseball
dude.
game on, this is what Jer hears in his head.
I remember I sat there and I was crying. I was crying, and I think I yelled out, "Stop hurting my mom!" That's what I said. I'm not even joking. Anyway,
and your dad was like, "Oh, it was Eric. We got to take him to the farm."
they were unable to surgically remove the cyst. After which, the patient reported that the oscillopsia had ceased and the bulging was gone.
Jared, I like that when you started to become self-conscious, you just started saying the word with conviction,
Yeah.
and now it sounds like you're getting it right at least.
Yeah, it's actually oscillopsia. Dermatoid cysts are the most common type of orbital tumors seen in infants and children. This guy's 21. According to the case report, the dumbbell dermoid cysts make up about 6% of all dermoid cysts. In order for a person's chewing to cause oscillopsia, they must have also have a defect in the bones around the eye itself. If a patient has this bone defect, then the movement of the jaw can push soft tissue into the eye or muscles and nerves behind it. Oh. In a 3-year follow-up after the patient's surgery, there had been no reoccurrence of either ellipsopsia or eyes protruding.
So this isn't too much science.
No. It's
This guy had an
with
issue.
a fucked up face.
He had an issue.
Yeah.
They looked into it. They investigated.
Yeah.
They found out this is the reason. Now, this gets translated into a study, then gets translated into an article, and then that article gets sent around online, and a significant portion of people don't read it. They just see the headline. And then now you've got a niche group of people
that don't chew,
who don't want to chew.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really, if you read it again, rare case of wobbly vision and a cyst behind the eye caused by chewing. Rare case. If they had just gone wobbly vision and cyst behind the eye caused by chewing.
Do you guys think that
I don't think it matters.
Do you think that there are regular bodily functions that you do on a day-to-day basis that concern you, that you put, like, if you put too much effort into them, it concerns you that you might do damage to your body?
Yes.
So like,
Yeah.
what comes to mind?
So I do this thing where there's just behind my condo, there's like an alleyway, and I can go right behind. No one can see me. And I've got this thing where, and I do it every single day. Rain doesn't get to this place. So the stain on the wall stays, and I measure how far up the wall I can piss. And I just push it out really hard. And I'm trying to set like a new PB every
not
day.
supposed to push.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I have a UTI.
Pushing is
Yeah.
bad.
Pushing aggressively when you pee could definitely be one of those things. Like if you were like standing in a toilet in a public bathroom and somebody else is peeing next to you, and you wanted to make your stream sound strong, so that like the person in the stall next to you really, they know
Has
you're packing.
stream envy.
Like they know that
Stream
you got
envy
like
is
some
real.
good solid pressure behind that. I could see that.
Actually, though, no, all jokes aside, sitting on the toilet too long when I'm taking a shit.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Just by the nature of sitting on the toilet, you are increasing your risk of developing hemorrhoids.
Why?
So when
Because you're giving too much time
For your
with your
sphincter to be
brain. Your brain is telling your butthole to be open and available for too long.
I don't know the science behind it, but yeah, I think it's something like that. And so, like, actually, like if you sometimes you'll sit down and take a shit and you're there for like 15 minutes because you're just scrolling Instagram.
Yeah.
That's bad for your butt.
Dude, what a fine and delicate balance then, because the opposite of that would be pushing too hard to
Yep.
expedite the poo-poo process.
Life's a balance.
It is.
Life's a balance.
Yeah.
And everything that you do is marching you one step closer to your grave.
Yeah, I don't know what the title of this episode is going to be. It's either going to be "Life's a Balance," bad for your butthole, or Jeremy's father killed his fucking dog.
My dog went to the farm. Is he dead? Question mark. That'll be the YouTube
There
version
you
of
go.
the title.
Question mark? Dead? Farm? Real?
All right, let's wrap this up. I got a meeting.
No, wait, no, we have to go to the gym.
No, I got to do this meeting first, and then we go.
I'm gonna ride my bike and love my
You
daughter.
should actually you should sit in on the meeting with me.
Okay.
It'd be good to have at least more than one of us. Oh, hey everyone. All right,
We're
folks.
still recording.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you have fun. We love doing these Feel Good Friday episodes. So glad you're with us. And if you want to support the podcast, you can do that by leaving a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, or simply leave a rating on the mobile app on your Spotify app. And of course, thanks for listening. Thanks to all of our Discord members. Jill, you won Executive Producer of the Week, so congratulations.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's the sound of Jer and Jer's parents
That's
boning.
fuck. And if you want to join the conversations over on Discord every day, we're getting new folks over there. So nice to see people in the introductory channel giving a shout out to where they're from and what they live with, if they live with something fun, or if they're just expressing why they listen to the podcast. We love all of you. Thank you so much for taking part in these fucking cool, supportive, lovely conversations, and you can be a part of that too. Check out the Discord link in the show notes of this episode, or any of the show notes of any of the episodes for the past few months.
And we talked about it earlier on in the episode. Really, really genuinely interested in the wide variety of reasons why people might be wearing masks outside by themselves during the day. If you want to let us know what that reason is for you and just give some context to that, love to hear it. Letters@sickboypodcast.com, or message us on Instagram and follow us, obviously. And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to sickboypodcast.com/contact.
Sweet. And a big thank you, as always, to the folks that make this show happen on a weekly basis. Donovan, the Meerkat, CPAP Morgan, thank you so much for the amazing sound design that you do. Jer, on these episodes, you're amazing. I love you. Rich O'Coin for the theme music and take part on Mondays.
Or did you just thank Jer, but not me?
Jared does the sound design on Friday. It's a whole thing.
I do all the work.
Yeah, and on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
But anyway,
thanks, dude. Thank you so much, Brett.
Yeah, no problem. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Taylor, thanks so much for handling the social media stuff. Like, I just really appreciate when you do that. A huge thank you to our manager, Jeff Lonis, and to Rich O'Coin for the theme music on these episodes.
That's it for this week.
I just wanted to thank so many people, you guys.
Yep.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sick Boy.